G'day Simbi, I hope your morning's been really good. My name's Amy and I'm here with today's story from Simbi for you. And this one is called Wandihnu and the Old Dugong. And you might have seen a dugong out in the bay before. You're very lucky if you have. I like to eat seagrass from the bottom of the bay. Wandihnu was a city girl who had lived her whole life in Sydney, and one day her mother told her some wonderful news. Wandihnu was going on a trip to Badu Island to stay with her akka. Wandihnu had never been to visit her akka before, and so her mother explained why this was an important journey. It was time for Wandihnu to learn about the culture and customs of her people. Akka knew that there would be many things for her granddaughter to learn because life on Badu was very different from Sydney. She decided that first she would teach Wandanu some Kala Lagwal Ya words, the traditional language of the island. It would then be easier for Wandanu to understand other island customs. And it has a little bit of information down here, and it says Badu Island is a tiny island in the western part of the Torres Strait. The Torres Strait lies at the tip of Cape York Peninsula in far north Queensland. First, Wandanu will fly to Cairns and then she will travel by a small plane over to Horn Island and then by even smaller plane to Badu Island. That's an adventure, isn't it? That night, Wandanu was so excited about seeing her akka, she couldn't sleep. When she finally stopped tossing and turning, she began to dream about her journey. It was a bright and beautiful day as Wandanu and her akka went off for a walk down to Front Beach. Today, Wandanu was to have her first language lesson. The ocean sparkled and Wandanu felt happy as she scratched her toes in the sand. The bay was lined with shady trees as she watched a young man climb up a tall coconut palm. He tossed the coconuts down onto the beach and Wandanu could hear their soft thud as they hit the sand. Akka and Wandanu walked up the beach until they found a shady spot. Immediately, Akka bent over and began to write simple words in the sand. So she soon noticed that Wandanu was distracted by women fishing nearby and the people swimming and diving nearby, and their chatter and laughter was making it hard for Wandanu to concentrate. Are you listening? Said Akka. Wandanu did not answer her grandmother and instead asked, Can I go and play? Aye, you stop still, Akka growled. Language first, play after. This is no fun. I want to play now, complained Wandanu. No, you play after, said Akka. But Wandanu would not listen to her grandmother. Oh, but how come they don't have language lessons, she said, pointing to the children swimming. Akka looked patiently at her granddaughter. They were born here. Those kids grew up on Badu, so they know our language, she said. Well, I don't want to learn. I want to go swimming, sulked Wandanu. She looked longingly at the water. Akka thought for a moment. She knew there was no point trying to continue the lesson. And at last she said, All right, since you don't want to listen to me, go and play then. Wandanu ran down to the shore and dived into the waves, and before long you could hear her laughing with the other children. Akka watched them play for a while, and then she walked down into the water to paddle her feet. Wandanu was soon spending her days swimming and playing with her cousins and new friends. Then one morning, Akka woke up feeling tired and unwell. She was too weak to get out of bed, and Wandanu was very worried. Akka, what can I do to help you? She asked. Although Akka was sick, she smiled gently and said, Go and see Coolbadungle. He's the old dugong that lives down in the seagrass beds. Ask him for some of his oil for me to drink, and that will make me feel better. So Wandanu threw on her sun hat and ran down to the beach. Just as her grandmother had said, she found the old dugong swimming lazily through the seagrass beds, and she called out, Mr. Dugong, please give me some of your oil to make my akka better. There was no answer. Wandihnu called out again, but there was still no answer, and she cried out again and again, but it was no use. Dungle just ignored her and carried on grazing around the grassy beds. Finally, Wandihnu gave up trying to get the old Dugong's attention, and she walked back to Aka's house. See the dugong there? Hitting the grass in the ocean. Aka, cried Wandihnu as she ran into her grandmother's bedroom. I don't think Dungle understands me. He won't talk to me at all. Aka looked wisely at her granddaughter. That's because Dungle only speaks Kalalaguya. He doesn't know any language, she said. Oh, he doesn't know any English, she said. Wandihnu thought back to her language lessons and how she just wanted to play and be with her friends. What are we going to do, Aka? She cried, and Aka paused for a moment and then came up with an idea. I'll write down what you must say in language, and you read the words to Dungle the best you can, she said. With the note in her hand, Wandihnu ran back to the beach, and the old dugong was still munching away on the seagrass. Instead of yelling out, Wandihnu carefully read aloud the words Aka had written. This time, Dungle heard what Wandihnu was trying to say, and he surfaced up through the water and he swam over to where she was standing in the shallows, and he flicked his eyes towards the conch shell lying on the sand, and Wandihnu waded to the shore and picked up the shell and brought it back for Dungle. Gently, he filled it with oil for Wandihnu to take back to her Aka. And Wandihnu was so happy she threw her arms around his neck and whispered, Eso. And as Dungle struggled to free himself, he said, Kusa pug aka naka, kusa pug aka naka. And then with a swish of his tail, he swam back to the seagrass beds. Later that afternoon, after she'd woken from a deep sleep, Aka drank the dugong oil and soon she was feeling better. Wandihnu remembered that Dungle had spoken to her after she had thanked him for the oil, and she told Aka. What did he say? Asked her grandmother curiously. Wandihnu replied, he said, Kursa pug Aka naka, Kursa pug Aka naka. What did it mean? Always listen to your Aka, laughed Aka. Always listen to your Aka. Wandihnu woke to the sound of the morning traffic rumbling past her house, and she rubbed her eyes and sleepily looked around her bedroom, and with a happy smile she felt back to her dream and whispered to herself, always listen to your Aka, always listen to your Aka. And that is the end of the story. Isn't that a lovely book? I love the pictures. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye.